Hi, my name is Rand Fishkin. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at SEO Moz. SEO Moz is a software company on the web focused on providing our users with solutions for search engine optimization, trying to help them do better in the organic search results at search engines like Google and Bing.
So take us back to the beginning, sort of briefly how SEOs got started. I read a few posts of yours and I see conflicting numbers of 2001, 2004.
Yeah,
Sort of take us through the brief history.
yeah, it's a little complex. So in 1981, which is way back in the day, my mom Jillian started a marketing company here in Seattle, and it was a sole proprietorship all the way through to 1997 when I started working there and helping with sort of the web side of things as her clients started needing web services, design, development, etc. Uh, I would pitch in on that front. I ended up dropping out of school in 2001 to pursue this full time. And at that time, we also got involved in doing a lot of web marketing. So we were doing consulting around usability and development. And then we did, you know, kinds of web marketing things, and that included SEO. We had used some outsourced vendors, and then we realized that we were struggling with those, and we had to learn it ourselves. And we did sort of active SEO from 2002 to about 2004, and that's when I started the website seomoz.org, where I was posting, information that I'd found, the experiences that I had, the tools that we were building to use internally. We sort of made those public for other people to use, and the website was completely free. It's just I'm sharing my experiences because the SEO world has been, sort of very helpful in uh, allowing me to learn the practice and the process, and that's why it's on a .org even to this day. So SEO Moz starts in 2004, and it wasn't until I think it was 2005 before we were actually doing business operating under the SEO Moz name, because the brand sort of took off. The blog got very popular, the tools got popular, lots of people in the SEO world were paying attention to it, and 2006 that grew and grew. In 2007, we launched the pro platform. So we've been historically revenue model was consulting, and in 2007 we switched over to this pro membership where you could sort of subscribe and get more tools and content and help and Q&A forum and all those kinds of things. That really got very popular, and at the end of 2007, in November of that year, we got funding from Ignition Partners and Curious Office, both of whom are local here in Seattle. We used that money primarily to fund a technology play and build our own web index like what Google and Bing has, so that we could provide transparency into the web's link graph and calculate metrics and help people understand how search engines were ranking their work more scientifically rather than just a rough kind of gut feeling. And that project was very successful, launched in October of 2008. Since December of 2008, SEO Moz has been profitable and growing. So we're 21 people, and we're going to be probably making a couple more hires before the end of the year. We're on schedule to have, I think we've got 4,000 paying members at this point, and probably do around 4.5 million in revenue this year.
Great. So take us back to when you put up the site. When you did that, you at that point had no intention necessarily of having a business around the site?
Not at all. Yeah.
And what did you put up initially? Just your blog?
God,
It was the blog.
yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing to say, but literally the first iteration of it was a blog that I had built half in Dreamweaver and half with PHP, MyAdmin, and a MySQL database. And then as it started getting a little bit of traction, there were three of us working here, and the developer Matt was like, "Oh, all right, I'll build something onto this." So we custom built a blog system. This was before CMSs like WordPress and those kind of things were popular. So we hand built it up from scratch, and the software today is actually still Cake PHP, completely custom built.
So did you start just putting out posts? Did you try to promote them in any way, or did it just sort of take off on its own?
Yeah, I mean, I
now
I
has
was obviously writing about SEO. I was obviously putting up information, sharing my experiences, interesting things that I found, covering the conferences that I went to. I got invited as a speaker to go to a lot of conferences after SEO Moz started getting some traction. I do coverage of those back on the blog. I guess I did some promotion. I'd talk about the blog in forums where I'd sort of been participating over the years. I'd connect with other people in the industry and sort of refer them back to it. Whenever I spoke on stage, I'd refer back to the site. But yeah, it grew very organically. I mean, it got a lot of traffic from search engines because we were pretty good at SEO at that point. And it got lots of traffic from referring links and people linking to it from their own blogs and sites and forums. We had a lot of social media sort of link bait successes in the early days of Dig, Reddit, Stumble Upon, Delicious Popular, um, Hacker News. All those kinds of sites were sending lots of traffic in, and they'd oftentimes be bloggers who then link to us, that kind of thing. So it was very organic, kind of a slow, natural growth cycle. But today we've got millions of links and 400,000 visits a month and 150,000 members who've signed up with their email addresses and 50,000 or so people reading the blog every day.
So it wasn't particularly deliberate in the sense that you put it up and you were just
It
sort
was
of
the opposite of deliberate. I mean, really until probably late 2005 when we started doing a lot of business under it. And at that point, we started doing more active promotion, right? Um, promoting the site more directly, doing viral content kinds of things intentionally, knowing what kinds of traction we could get with those, and building a more scientific and rigorous process around it. But that first year, forget it. It was basically like, I'm going to blog about SEO, and just no real thinking at all beyond that.
So was it this organic just success of the blog? At some point, you decided, oh, I should focus more on this. I should build a business around this. Like, at what point did you make that decision?
That's exactly right. I mean, it was really a combination of things that we were driven into SEO by the fact that this economic downturn had happened, right? The dot-com bust had happened in 2001, and so people were looking for ways to make money on the internet, and SEO was a really good one, and so we got into that. And then as the SEO consulting business was actually struggling, like really struggling, I was personally having a tremendously hard time. I put up this blog, SEO Moz, to sort of share the information that I had learned and hopefully get some feedback from folks around like this one particular client site where I just could not get traction, right? I was ranking like #1 for everything in Yahoo, #1 for everything in MSN search at the time before it was live search and now Bing, even ranking in like ask.com, and couldn't move past like position 100 on Google. And so was trying to learn what was going on with that, and eventually had some success there, got that client site ranking, and the blog just took on a life of its own. I really enjoyed writing there, and so it built up naturally.
Okay, so you have this popular blog. You decide it's popular enough to make a business around.
Yeah.
What's the next step from there?
We just designed a really simple thing. We said, hey, for 29 bucks a month, how about, lots of people have been asking us for more like admin level access to our tools. So the tools that were free to use on the site, but really, you know, only we internally at SEO Moz could use all the full functionality and use them as many times as we wanted per day and that kind of thing. So we said, okay, let's open that up and let these members use it. And then we'll produce some guides and we'll have some other tools that we build for the service, and we'll push all that out. And that's what we did in February of 2007. We launched that product that had been built in maybe 3-4 months, and it had no sort of formal product design. It was just like, hey, I think people would like a tool that does this. All right, let's throw that up. Okay, I think people are going to want to do this with keyword difficulty. Fine, let's make that happen. How about someone writes a guide around building search-friendly architecture? Okay, I'll do that. So very organic again, and the fact that that product was taking off then made us go, okay, this is suddenly generating as much or now more revenue than consulting. Let's focus on this. It's really scalable. It can grow. And then obviously when we took the venture capital investment, we started having board meetings and a lot more formalization around the business and got much, much more serious.
So you were doing the consulting before you put up the tools. Um,
Yes. We'd been consulting since, I'd been doing web consulting since 97 and SEO consulting since 2002.
and your consulting efforts were mainly referral based, or
Yeah, pretty much all organic. Our clients would refer us to other clients. People would just have inbound calls. We were featured in a few press pieces. There was a big Newsweek article about us at the end of 2005 that drove a lot of business. Although surprisingly not as much as, like a popular blog post on SEO Moz would actually drive a lot of inbound interest. So, I'd put up something and lots of people would read it, and then they'd say, oh man, these guys are smart. I need to get them on the case.
So once you put up the tools, were you after the initial $29 thing? Were you like, I have to move to this? Was it, you
Yeah. So
like
when we,
want to get out of consulting at that point? Like, how'd that
yeah,
work?
we basically did, I think we did around, 650,000 in revenue on the tools in that first year, and we're excited about that, but recognize that now with this venture capital investment, we could do something we'd always dreamed of doing, and that was expose the web's link graph by crawling the internet. Build our own web crawl, which today is 55 billion pages, probably about 45% of Google's size. Indexing all of those, building metrics on top of them, and giving webmasters the ability to see who's linking to me, who's linking to my competitors, what links matter and don't matter, which ones are important and not important. Calculating metrics like, Google has PageRank and Yahoo had WebRank. I think MSN, which is now Bing, had static rank. These sort of query independent metrics, and we have one called MozRank, naturally. And so we calculate that on the page level, but also calculate it on the domain level, which we know the search engines are doing, but no one's ever exposed before, right? So you can see that little number that Google puts out in the little green toolbar, 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. But MozRank will be able to say, well, this is a 4.65 and this one's a 4.54. And actually a 4.65 on a log scale is like twice as important as a 4.54. So, you just get that degree of refinement that you can't find from search engine data. And you get lists of links that you can't get from search engines. And you see anchor text, and you see, you get visibility into all these things that the engines use to calculate how they rank documents that you've never been able to see before. So that's been really exciting for us.
So do you view that funding decision as somewhat an inflection point in your company?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a point at which we said, we're going to go big with this, right? We're going to try and make this much more than a family business, a lifestyle business, and make something seriously big happen. And we're at that point again. We launched Linkscape last year, I mentioned in October, and it sort of has gained traction. The membership has really grown. This year's been phenomenal. And these are, terrible economic times. So for us to be doing so well, doubling revenue in '08, tripling it this year, I think really says something about the SEO market, that it's just ready for this software solution. And so over the last couple of weeks, I've been out on the road, couple of weeks, probably a month, I've been out on the road, up and down Sand Hill Road in the Valley, talking to VCs about maybe taking another round of funding.
And so, I mean, I guess a lot of people would say, why take this second round, right? You're doing absolutely well.
Yeah.
You have traction on all your products. Like, what would you use this money for?
Um, well, so, I can tell you specifically what we're using it for, but the big picture is we think that SEO is going to be just like many other software fields were before it, where, think back to analytics. Back in 1998, a consultant come in and they do like a log file analysis and tell you what was sort of going right and wrong on your site and where you're getting traffic from. And then along came Urchin and ClickTracks and index tools and Omniture, and it became software, it became productized, right? And the same thing happened in the email marketing space, where you had Constant Contact and iContact and Exact Target. The same thing happened in PPC, where it started as, people just doing the one-off bidding, and then Google built software around it. People like Search Ignite built software, and Efficient Frontier built software. We think SEO is exactly the same, and we definitely see that. I think a good parallel would be something like SurveyMonkey, right? Before you'd do a web survey and you'd build your own technology. Now you just go to SurveyMonkey.com and you make software through their site. You pay them whatever, $25 a month or $100 a month if you want to use the upgraded version, and you send out your surveys. And that's like a $35 million a year business. I mean, just remarkable stuff that can happen when it turns into software. And what we see is a big opportunity around us. SEO Moz has this brand leadership and tons of traffic. People coming 20,000 people a day coming to the site and saying like, spending 5 minutes per session on the site and 4 or 5 page views per session, clearly extremely interested in SEO. And so we want to provide this solution to them.
So, well, it's a little stormy here.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, your story sounds like so easy in a way.
Well,
You know,
boy.
so like, give us. I mean, it's been a long time, clearly, but you put up the blog. It sort of naturally got popular. You put up some tools. People started just paying for them. Um, are there some sort of things in there specifically that you did that you think really contributed to that success, or is it very
Yeah, I mean, you
natural?
have to. So I think the thing to understand with SEO Moz is if you look at it, it sounds sort of easy, but remember that from, you know, 2004 into 2006, I was blogging personally every night, researching everything I could about the SEO field, trying to produce the most valuable, interesting, terrific content, trying to feel out the audience and see what they wanted and how could we grow this? How could we grow this? What would be attracting those people. So it was, I mean, years and years of like doing the work, researching it, and then getting good at writing, getting good at messaging it back. I do a lot of illustrations on the blog. We try and do interesting studies, correlation data, and research, and connecting with other people in the industry. So it's a tremendously taxing activity to try and build up to that brand leadership position. I don't want to suggest to you that there's any part of this that's been just simple or easy or was handed to us. I think we definitely made some smart decisions around lucking into a good industry that was growing, that had lots of opportunity. If we had tried to become experts in the wiki space, right, that space kind of, with the exception of Wikipedia, it's not like everyone on the web built a wiki, but everyone on the web is doing SEO, right? So it's not like picking podcasting, right? I'm going to become a huge podcasting expert, and yeah, podcasting is doing fairly well, but it's not an activity that everyone thinks about all the time. It would be like choosing social media marketing a couple of years ago, which has really gotten hot now, or choosing Twitter marketing a year or two ago, and being a top expert in that. There was definitely some lucking into the right arena at the right time, but along with that, God, I can't tell you, the hours I poured into blogging, into building up a good selection of resources on the site, into figuring out what people wanted and what they were struggling with, um, and that's actually, it's funny because it's kind of reflected in our core values here. So last year we actually took some time and wrote down guiding principles for SEO Moz, and what is the core reason that SEO Moz exists, and we decided that was to simplify promotion of ideas on the web, right? Which is a very lofty goal, like Google's goal to organize the world's information or something. And the values that we chose, transparency and generosity, right? Showing everything about our business. I mean, for years, even in years where we did really pretty crappy, 2005, I posted our financials, right? How much money we made, how much we spent, how much we lost, where it came from, where, expenses, all that kind of stuff. And then, back into showing off that same amount of information whenever we learn something about the search engines. We learn that Google does this particular thing around the sandbox, and that's why these penalties happen. And we sort of get in a little bit of information from some people who are really experienced in that field or from Google themselves, and we try and make that transparent, right? And we issue that out through the blog. So authenticity is another big one of ours. So we kind of we love our cheesy jokes here at SEO Moz and sort of you know, our weird sense of humor, and we want to let that pervade all of the information that we put up. Uh, we have a big focus on quality, putting out tools and resources that are actually useful and usable to our members. And we have a final one around empathy, right? Being able to put ourselves in the shoes of our clients and our customers and feel the pain that they feel so that we can help to fix it. And those are all things that really got us to where we were. And so when it came time to put core values together, they just fell into place.
So I guess the lesson is you picked a good market, but you stayed around long enough and put in the work long enough where it became the right place at the right time, but it might
Yeah.
not have been unless you worked for several years on it, right?
So let me describe to you what my life was like in 2000, from 2001 to 2006. Well, 2005 really. I personally racked up almost $500,000 in credit card debt and loans, like personal loans. And I can't tell you what that's like knowing that, you know, I'll tell you, it was so bad that I lived with my girlfriend, who was now my wife. I couldn't be on the lease because my credit was, too awful. Um, and so she was paying the rent because I wasn't making hardly anything. And I'd go into work and there'd be like a guy there from some loan shark company that the credit agency had sold the debt to, like trying to bully me into paying him some money and threatening me with lawsuits and all this kind of stuff. Like uh, it was not fun. It was not easy. There were definitely, you know what, screw it. I should just declare bankruptcy and go work for a real company. Like I probably get a good job at a Microsoft or an Amazon and like, you know, make 70 or 80K a year. But I stuck it out,
So I
stuck it
mean,
out.
most people would have quit, right? So what do you
Well,
what was keeping you going? The real belief in the market, like you knew what you were building was right, like.
there was some of that. I think there was some of the like emotional traction that I could feel SEO was getting, right? I could feel that there was this community building up around the site, around the brand, and that people really cared about it and were passionate about it. I mean, for a company that does SEO, we have amazing members who care about the personal lives of the employees here, members who care about, they follow every one of us on Twitter and they want to know everything that's going on. It's really a passionate, friendly, warm, caring community, by and large, with obviously a few, a butthole here or there. But there, I think I could feel that. And so even as all these terrible things are happening sort of in my personal life and financial life, there was that support. And I had the unflagging support of my mom, Jillian, who'd been running the company for forever and was taking care of dealing with all this financial turmoil and stress and havoc, and of my girlfriend, who now is my wife, Geraldine, who was just, you go do what you need to do, and I got the rent, and I got dinner, and you need to borrow my car to go to a meeting, borrow my car, go ahead. So those things, I think, really kept it going.
Hmm. So that's a great story. So did you do any? A lot of this all happened organically, just over a long period of time with your effort. Was there any kind of use of PR or paid marketing that really made this happen, or are there any
It's
other like?
funny. I just had a meeting today with a CEO, a startup CEO, down in Seattle. Had lunch with a guy, and uh, I was talking to him about how we've never paid for PR, never paid for any marketing. Our cost of customer acquisition is basically zero. I mean, you could put all the blogging time and sort of content creation time into that, I guess. But uh, he recommended to me that we spend like 10K on a PR firm because he thinks it's actually valuable, and he found one that he really likes, and so I think I'm going to give them a call. But to date, no, nothing ever, completely 100% organic. I think that's the power of organic internet marketing, right? SEO plus social media marketing plus sort of blogosphere engagement and interaction plus answering your email within, it used to be until last year, I would answer virtually every email within 2 or 3 hours. And I've gotten worse, but I'm still fairly good at it. Connecting with everyone, going to tons of conferences, meeting everyone I possibly can, making great impressions on them whenever possible, providing as much help, just being incredibly generous with, the time of myself and the rest of the company to help whoever needed it in whatever way we could, and then hoping that they would reciprocate the favor by recommending us and sharing us with their friends. And that has really been the success at SEO Moz. I don't think, you can think of a few big points, right? It's sort of okay, well, SEO Moz gets this article in Newsweek, and like that really launches things. But actually, it wasn't responsible for that much business, and not that many people who were customers saw it or knew about it. I think most of the people in the SEO world knew about it because we wrote about it on our blog, not because they all read Newsweek, which is not read by a particularly technological subscriber base. We had an article in the Washington Post where we were mentioned, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Again, really small stuff, kind of in passing. So those weren't particularly huge. Um, I don't know. I mean, I did big weird stuff. If you're super interested, you can see this thing called the Super Bowl proposal, where I actually proposed to my wife, and like, I was on the Oprah show, like, but that didn't do anything for the business. I didn't even mention the business on the show. So it's just kind of a very, very organic, natural process, right? Every visitor who comes to the website, you give them a great experience. They want to share that. They hopefully link to you. You build a link, you get a few links going, and you rank better for some terms, and then more and more people are searching for those terms over the years. So the rising tide of inbound links plus searches performed plus people writing about this topic means that you're getting more and more traction as the marketplace grows. And being a market leader in a market that's growing um, is a tremendous thing.
So, okay, so a couple more questions.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of the success then is driven by sort of the success of your blog, which is a central part of the website. Um, you've talked a lot about putting a lot of effort into getting the blog perfect. I mean, like getting much research as you can, putting information out. Do you think there's a correlation between how many posts you do and
Yeah. So actually, I found an interesting one where if I don't blog, so if a new post doesn't go up on basically we put our posts up, we try and put them up late at night. So between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Sunday night through Thursday night. If a post doesn't go up, you can see visitors will go down a little bit the next day, conversions will go down a little bit the next day, feed readers go down a little bit the next day. If it's a really good post, all those metrics go up. And if it's just sort of moderate posts, they stay flat. So this is a great incentive piece that every morning you know how well you did last night, right? And you can refine and you can improve and get better and better and better and better. And you can see, we bring new folks into the company and onto the blog, and they sort of learn the ropes and get better at this performance. And to the extent that you can write something tremendously valuable or tremendously interesting, that's citation worthy, that's bookmark worthy, that's sharing worthy, that just drives a ton of value to the business. And we do it, not just through the blog, the tools, right? You put together a free tool with a sort of premium add-on, great. Those work amazingly well at sort of getting people to convert. You put together great articles that sort of sit behind the paid wall, and those that are out for free. And when people read the free ones and love them and get referred to the paid ones and want to see those, they sign up for the membership as well. So there's all these sort of triggers around the business of, uh, this is like the freemium model, right? Offer lots of free stuff and if you want more of this great free stuff, upgrade.
So on your site, you list some like Fortune 500 companies. Is that organic too, or are you chasing those in a different way?
Nope. Yeah, so like the SEO team from Facebook, I met, one of the guys who runs search marketing inside Facebook at a conference, and he was like, "Hey, I would love to like fly my team up to Seattle and sit down with you guys and do a brainstorm session, figure out what we're doing right and wrong." And yeah, they flew up. We had like a lunch with them. We had uh, like a 4-hour sit down meeting where we were all sort of brainstorming around all the stuff Facebook could do. And they found a few things that they were able to fix and optimize and that kind of thing. And the team took them out to dinner and drinks. And it's great. It's just sort of those relationships that you build. I think a lot of the Fortune 500 stuff is someone sees you at a conference, right? So that in-person, pressing the flesh, getting to see someone speak, that's hard. That's a very hard thing to replicate on the web. And I think that in-person contact is always going to be critical to building up those big relationships. But again, it's pretty organic. How did I get in the conference circuit? Well, people like the blogs. They invited me to speak. How did I do well at conferences? Well, I did a lot of them. So I'd get better and better at speaking and presenting. And how did these people find me? Well, they'd come to the conference and then they'd just hear me speak. It wasn't like I knew they were coming and I wanted to meet them and tried doing sales calls or anything. It's just pretty organic.
So that's really all my questions. Are there any other sort of things that come to mind about getting traction and the history of your business that I just haven't touched on through my lack of good questions?
No, I would say, uh, I mean, a few things that have really helped us. The better we've gotten with analytics, the smarter we get about everything. So, installing index tools a few years back was a big jump up for us. Getting FeedBurner on there, being able to track that. I think Google Webmaster Tools has been really helpful with seeing that. And I know this is going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but Linkscape has been phenomenal, right? Because we can sort of see all the links that point to us, and we know how well certain posts do and don't do, how well certain tools are working. We build a quiz and a badge, and like, how's that going for us? And we can see what people are using to link to us with anchor text and modify those. So, that tool alone has been tremendous. So even if we weren't building it for everyone else, I'm glad we built it for us because it's helped us a lot. Um, yeah, so I think the analytics process. Other big kind of inflection points. I mean, taking venture capital. If you read my post about that, you can see that it made us so much more serious about the metrics of the business, about analyzing those, um, getting a little more serious about everything about when we interviewed people, who we were hiring, what were they doing inside the business, building the structure of the organization rather than like five people who just kind of do everything and are responsible for everything. And yeah, I think that formality has helped us a lot too.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this interview.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great to get to meet you.